This is Ian. I'm here from the AutoHub show, and I had the pleasure of interviewing a new contact of mine, even though I'm very familiar with the company, being that I've had interviews for several interviews live at different events, both at NIADA. I think I did one also at Digital Dealer, maybe even, and I probably did one at SEMA. I've been at SEMA multiple times, but I don't want to mispronounce. It's Brigadier General, retired, I guess, or reserve. It's Yaron Rosen, correct?
Yes, that's
I
me.
got it right. Wow, shocking. So maybe you could tell me a little bit more about, I guess, your story. It sounds like it'd be very interesting, but also the story of Fuse Autotech.
Yeah. I'll make the long story short, but basically I'm a Israeli surfer, born and raised on the beach. Didn't go much to school. Ended up traveling with my family as a kid, quite a lot around the world. I was lucky enough to be in a family. My dad worked for various startups, actually. Some
Okay.
of them do not exist. How surprising. Like companies like Digital,
Mhm.
uh, the companies that built the computer world, and basically joined the military when I was 18 as an Israeli boy. Came back from Japan,
Wow.
uh, graduated the American school in Japan, and came back to serve. Came in for my 3 mandatory years and ended up serving over 32 years.
Wow.
Most of them in the Air Force. I'm an Air Force pilot and did like many things that I'm grateful for, the opportunity to serve my country and my people, my family. And 7 years ago, after serving for over 3 decades, again, mostly in the Air Force, and at the end in cyberspace, I ended up being the chief of the IDF cyber staff, responsible for all of the um, force building, the budget for all cyber in our defense forces, um, the human resource development and the operational process. Retired 7 years ago, happily. Wanted to found a startup when I was 30, waited for 20 years. Yes, I know, a long time. And 7 years ago, I founded my first startup in cybersecurity, working with governments mainly. And after founding that and managing that as a CEO with my two partners, I founded another startup because I really wanted to go to the private sector. Bootstrapped that actually. The first one was VC, Andreessen Horowitz,
Mhm.
that type of thing, which was really interesting and great. But the second one was bootstrapping, and after 2 years of 2 additional years in startups and cybersecurity, I had enough, and I wanted to go as far as I could from cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And I was introduced to Ellie Wertman from that founded Vroom.
Yeah.
And I was in Mexico because we have my second startup has a joint venture in Mexico. And he said, I have a company that their offices are in Minneapolis. Why don't you fly up there? It's the same longitude, right? It's 6 hours, but it's the same longitude. And I flew up there arrived on a Saturday, landed in Minneapolis, stepped into the Walzer Toyota dealership,
Mhm.
not know anything about car dealerships, but immediately fell in love with the industry and with the problem. It amazed me. What was going on there was just beyond words. It reminded me of the flight line, things that I did for many, many years, for decades, and just the challenges and the problems and of managing this place that has so many people to manage and so many processes and technologies and customers on a Saturday noon was just unbelievable, and I just fell in love with it. And a year ago and a month, 13 months ago, I joined Fuse as the CEO. And since then, I'm on this amazingly interesting ride of bringing, of digitizing the sales process, basically, for dealers. And that's the basic story.
Fantastic. That's a long story, but an interesting one. So it's interesting that you bring that up because a number of years ago we're in now season 5 of the AutoHub show. We have over 400 episodes, and we've interviewed a lot of technology companies over the years, both in the CRM DMS space, in the communication space, in the digital retail space, and website spaces, and different plugins of technology, be it text messaging or lead management or video or various things. And I know, I guess it was about 3 or 4 years ago, we had a discussion with a number of companies that competed in the digital retail space at that time. Since I think both of them have been bought out by bigger companies, just because I think one of them was called Roadster and the other one was Moto Insight. And then there was a third one, I think, at the time. One's been bought by CDK, the other one was bought by somebody else. But the biggest challenge at that time, and I know things have moved a lot since then because we had a pandemic in between, was that, well, dealers were like, yeah, I kind of want to sell online, but I'm still waiting for people to show up. And I'm a little shocked that they don't want to walk into the dealership anymore, which I think is kind of interesting, being that I'm been in the car industry for 25 years and I have a family history going back close to 100. But it's pretty obvious that people don't want to spend 10 hours in a car dealership today. And there's been data from a number of companies on that. But when you look at that challenge of modifying that, I guess what they would call historically road to the sale process and making it digital, but not only making it work for OEM level and dealer level, what do you feel are the biggest challenges in adoption and fixing that?
Yeah, it's super interesting. I mean, again, I'm a newcomer to the industry, and it gives me an opportunity, sort of a a perspective that is a little bit different from people that are inside this, for lack of a better word, like a swamp, right? I'm from the outside.
Bubble,
I'm a
yeah,
new guy. I'm a
yeah,
new
yeah,
guy in the swamp. So, I think retail is retail. But selling a car or buying a car is quite a complex transaction. And the question is, can we take selling cars to the place where retail has gone in the last decade or two? That's the question. Okay. And I think it goes to your point. Like, should it take 10 hours or 5 hours or even 3 hours? The customers will not come to the amazing dealerships that dealers build if it takes so long. For the next few years, the Gen Zs that are a growing part of who buys cars, they will not come to dealerships if it takes so long. So that's just one reason to really focus on how you sell cars fast. Okay, it should not be taking a day off to buy a car. Now,
yeah,
the question is, with that, what do we do and how do we take that to the practicalities of the complex sales process of selling a car? So that's the challenge. So Fuse is everything in between the the CRM
yeah,
and the DMS.
yeah,
And basically, what you want to do, if the CRM is all about bringing customers, okay, and the DMS is about processing the customers that you sold the car to, and then service them, and then and employees and commissions and all that, the accounting side of the
yeah,
dealership. The it was really interesting to me when I looked at the problem and fell in love with it, that no one took the whole part in between and consolidated it. It's a mountain of broken processes, systems, logins, crazy complexity, hard to train, waste of time, double entries, really frustrating for the seller and for the buyer and it just makes your life really hard. So it's not modern for sure. And so even if you think you're selling cars really, really well, the biggest thing and probably the only thing you can do to do better is kill time. Like,
Yeah.
how can you really, instead of selling in 10 or 5 or 3 hours, cut that by 50% or more? The
Yeah.
only way to do that is through digitization and streamlining, integrating all of these systems between the CRM and the DMS to one system, one screen, one login, built-in compliance, built-in guardrails. Employees and general managers shouldn't worry about compliance
No.
and all these things. And the cars rule is coming. Whatever version of it is coming.
Yeah.
And a lot of stores understand that and want compliance and need compliance because the state rules and all that, all these things. So you need built-in compliance. You need to be able to close deals remotely for the ones that don't or can't come to the dealership or they are returning customers. Okay, you need that as well. And it needs to be easy and intuitive. That's what we do with our Fuse platform, which is a basically from small to end. Small is the desking.
Yeah.
And depending on what part of the deal you want to do, you can go all the way end to end, but you can start with a very humbly, it's the best desking tool out there. And basically, if you want our simplest desking, it's 48 hours until it's working. And if you want a little bit more than that, all the way to the credit application and products, etc., you can go 72 hours. And if you want dynamic products, it takes however time it takes whenever you provide us with the information. So it might take a little bit more, but it's not 6 months or 12 months to integrate this. It is easy. It is made by Gen Zs for Gen Zs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's who I have in Fuse. At Fuse, the employees are all in love and obsessed with solving this problem of the 3 hour and up car sale.
Yeah, actually, I agree with that. I mean, it's funny. I did a survey on LinkedIn. God, what was it now? Maybe 6 months ago, because I was doing a show on sort of the follow up on sort of where digital retail was. Because way back when we did these shows where it was like one versus the other, and is this better than that? And what's that about? What's the take rate and all this stuff? And I was curious. So I put out some numbers. I said, okay, how long should it take to buy a vehicle? You know, 3 hours, 1 hour, 15 minutes, half an hour, whatever that is. And ironically, what came back was 30 minutes or less. And it's interesting because when you look at servicing of a vehicle, use oil change as an example, the dealers that are very successful at selling oil changes and attracting and retaining service customers, a lot of the cases that bought them there, really focus on that 30 minutes or less oil change angle because the third parties do, but some of them just don't care. But at the end of the day, it's about time management. I learned this many years ago that people care about saving money and saving time. Those are the two things they play around with. If you can save them time and create a great experience, the money's probably secondary. I mean, it has to be within a budget, obviously, but when you look at the data from doing this for a while and changing these processes from the, I guess what I'd call mixed bag of tricks, which is your CRM and your DMS and your desking tool and your paper process and your time management and your follow up and all this, the CSI and finance and all this stuff. When you take all that stuff and you streamline and put it together, what do you feel that the time savings and growth for the dealership would be for, say, implementing this versus not? In your opinion, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the way I tell that story to dealers when we talk to them is slow, slow, fast, right? Like, what do shoppers want? They want respect for the time, right? I came here, respect me, and respect my time. So, and I want to make this decision. It's probably a big decision for me.
Yeah.
It's one of the most, one of the biggest decisions I
Yeah.
make. Purchasing something. It's a car. It's not a house, but it's a car in between
Mhm.
somewhere. And so when I make that decision, just take my money and let me go home. Give
Yeah.
me the car keys and let me go home. So slow, slow, fast. That's how we call it. So if if you are happy, if you step out of a dealership after you close the deal, slow, slow, fast, what are the chances of you coming back for service and coming back and calling your the salesperson that you met there and telling him, I thought I'd, buy a new car or get a new car, or you reaching out to him and him saying yes, or returning customer, which is one of the most valuable things for dealers. Retaining a customer, that is super important. And I think that if you just take that and shorten your sales process by 50% at least, um, you are in for all these returning customers and a delightful sales or buying of a car. And our dealers end up with a average of 90 minutes, no more than 90 minutes from yes to done. So slow, slow, fast.
Yeah.
After they test drive, whatever, 90 minutes. And the average, the percentage of deals under 1 hour is between 30 to 40% when they have a few months with our
Yeah.
platform. So
Hmm.
when you do that, what happens to your CSI?
It goes
No
up,
brainer,
right?
goes up. I mean, it affects everything. It affects your inventory. It affects how customers come back. It affects your sales team because they're doing a much easier job and they're happy. And by the way, this is interesting. Again, it's all about efficiencies, right? You mentioned, let's say you have 10 people in your sales team, right? And you're trying to more through your website and digital retail and
Yeah.
specials and whatever. By the way, we do automated specials pages as well to bring you more deals in. We do that. Okay, you got 10 people, but it takes 5 hours to sell a car. How much better can they be? Even if you bring more customers, you'll have a line and you'll lose people on Saturday noon, right? So it doesn't matter what you do if you can't shorten the time. Time is the killer of dealers,
Oh, yeah.
and it's the killer of employees, and it's so many things. So if I only would focus on one thing for dealers, I would say look at your time and kill that, make that go down by at least 50%. And so many other things will happen from that. The rest will be history. It starts from time. You
Yeah.
take care of time. You focus on how you greet, how you take care of them, how you desk deals very efficiently, whatever model you're using, whether you are a more traditional one, dealer, or a single point of contact. Fuse is built for whatever sales environment you have, and we just take your time and just shrink it and let you focus on one thing, which is the customer. You can
100%.
look at the customer in his eyes. You can actually push the keyboard towards the customer because they're all Gen Z plus minus, and they know how to do that better than you. And it's self-driving. If you want to show them, it's a self-driving process by itself. And it just creates a happy, fast learning, guardrailed sales process that makes everyone happier.
Sounds like a good plan. So, what is the pushback you get from the car people or I guess the old guard in the car business who say, listen, like I've got a CRM, I got a DMS, I've got some form of desking tool, Foursquare, whatever they're using. What's the pushback? Or maybe, oh, this is going to impact F&I. I mean, what kind of pushback are you getting from dealers who say, hey, I don't need this?
I think the main pushback we're getting is the change management that people think it takes. When I came to Fuse, one of the first discussions I had with the management was around implementation times. And I did a quick survey
Hmm.
at the first meeting, And I
Yeah.
asked people to raise their hands and tell me how many did a CRM implementation in less than 6 months. No one raised their hand.
Wow.
How many did it in 9 months? A few raised their hand. How many did it 9 to 12 months? Most people, and some people raised their hands 12 to 18 months.
Wow. That's
That is
great.
how long it takes to implement a CRM or a DMS. And I told them after we did that, I told them, we will not succeed if our most comprehensive product, the end to end, everything in between the CRM and DMS, if it takes more than 4 weeks, we are dead.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. Our implementation from the moment we come to the dealership until we launch, the end to end product is 1 month. If you do only desking, it's 48 hours. If you do the desking plus, it's 72 hours. If it's with dynamic products, it might take whatever time it takes you, inventory, all these things. It might take a few more weeks, but it's a fast, very low change management. And that's the basically it's I'm selling cars. I'm making money. What do you want? Well, do you want a happy team, or do you want to be really working hard? Do you want to work easier? Like, Mr. General Manager, do you know how long it takes desking? Like, what's the average desking time? What's the average credit app time? What's the average menu time? Who's doing it well? Who's doing it less? Uh, Fuse has built-in dashboards and timers for every phase, so you can take the person that's doing it really well and tell him to teach all the rest of the team.
Oh
And
yeah.
again, if you want to make more money, that's the only way, because I think we agreed that the biggest time killer is the biggest uh, thing that's holding back selling more is how long it takes
Yeah. Yeah.
to sell a car. But if you want to sell the same, but with more efficiency, you can also do that. We have a dealer that shrunk his team by 60%. He sells the same number
Yeah.
with 60% less expense. Now, not everyone wants to do that. That's fine. Most people want to sell more.
Yeah.
So that's what we're saying. Just sell and do it simply and fast.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the model in Europe, for example, for retail cars, you look for the model in Asia. I was in Japan, so I got a little sense of that model. You look at the model in North America, it's pretty similar, whether it be Mexico, Canada, the U.S. But when you look at the future of auto sales, and you look at models like Tesla and Lucid and others, and that tends to lean more towards less people in the front end, not more. I had the opportunity to work with Nissan Canada. I actually managed Western Zone for them, and we did a lot of training in multiple departments, including F&I. And even then, and this was a number of years ago now, the biggest challenge was in the F&I office anyway was time. How long it took for them to process the paperwork, sell the products, deliver the car, meet the customer. And the way I look at it is if you can, I've had many dealers say to me, "Hey, I'd love to sell more cars with less people." But really, when you look at Brian Benstock and others, to pick some luminaries in the U.S. market, they're really looking at ways to reduce the friction. So they're saying, okay, the customer comes in, and some of these steps are not optional, but how can we streamline it so once they've made that call on whatever vehicle, they can move fast towards delivery versus I got to wait for this person, I got to wait for that person, I got to wait for this paperwork and that and whatever. So I think you're on the right track there, but when you're looking at, uh, I guess implementation's one of the pieces, but when you're looking at the market in general, I mean, Amazon is a company obviously that this year at NADA was offsite jumping into the car business. So obviously there's going to be big change. And then you have companies like Techion and others who are changing, I guess, the dinosaur pieces of tech in the technology space, be it Unix or other products. Do you see that eventually is the game plan for Fuse to eventually be baked into these products? Is that the long-term strategy in your opinion?
Fuse, for now, my vision is Fuse needs to be sort of a Switzerland. I I'm positioning Fuse in the middle between the CRMs and the DMSs for a reason. And actually, one of the reasons was sadly or happily for me, but sadly for the industry, was validated now when the CDK hack happened. And even today, we had another. It's not a hack. What happened with CrowdStrike?
Yeah,
That thing that happened. So you know the because of the big whales of this industry. It's dominated by these huge whales that are swallowing everyone. What happens from that is that you are exposed to quite a lot of risks
yeah,
because if one thing goes off and you are end to end held by one brand, you're gone.
yeah,
And that's something I talk about also now, again, validated under terrible circumstances for many, many dealers. Our dealerships, our CDK dealerships, when the CDK hack happened, nothing happened to them because they had the Fuse system, which we call the Fuse system is a variable operations management system because we take care of everything which is variable operations. Okay. So when that hit, when the DMS went down, basically, how do you close deals? So the
yeah,
CDK Fuse customers, they had Fuse. So the Fuse acts as a platform that closes deals. It doesn't care that it cannot push to the DMS. It holds the information. The DMS was offline, disconnected from the world
yeah,
because of that. And basically now that CDK is opening their API, we will be able to push back all the unlost in our case for our customers. And
yeah.
actually our customers sold more than they did on regular days because probably many customers didn't have anywhere to go. So they went to
Yeah,
them or something. Like
yeah.
15% more on sales for Fuse customers. So I think that for now, we are the great Switzerland in between.
Mhm.
Uh, how this develops commercially, I have no idea. But from a positioning standpoint, um, I think that the compartmentalization is a better strategy from a tech stack standpoint. So if I am a dealer, I would not take the same DMS, CRM, point of sale, or variable operation system. I would choose different
Yeah,
just from a redundancy standpoint for cybersecurity reasons and other reasons. Again, it can be just like CrowdStrike today. It's just a malfunction. Something happened with one of the sensors. Okay, but it's not working. What do I do now? How do I close deals? How do I continue selling? It's Saturday. And that's what you need. You need redundancies. That's how you build business continuity
right.
plans. You need redundancies, and you need ways to to provide continuity to your dealership. So you have a CRM. That's great. If the CRM goes down, so call, go, go to your website, do whatever you need to do. People will walk in, whatever if you have the variable operation system, you can still sell and close. And by the way, if that goes down, you still have your DMS. You can close deals on the DMS. So the redundancy between the variable operations management system and your DMS is exactly the redundancy you need in to be able to close deals always, like no matter what. And so that's where I envision positioning Fuse for now. And I think it's worked for us pretty well because we've people are noticing this thing. Again, the CDK hack was just a very hard but interesting event for us.
And what about fixed ops? Is that something you're looking at in the future or no?
Yeah. Actually, what we're doing is we're going into payments because that is part of our strategy. We are doing a few things. Fuse is a fintech company. Quite interestingly, we're not about only about digitizing the variable ops. We are about doing a few things for the lenders and for the dealers. So what we're doing is we're building um, uh, a lenders marketplace that helps them uh, see much better. It provides them visibility into the buying process inside the store. Quite amazingly, again, part of the amazing things I learned when I jumped into this industry is how archaic banks are still selling loans to dealers. They actually have people, like real people,
Yeah.
running around dealerships and trying to find out, why did I get this deal or lose this deal after the fact? There's no real time understanding of what's going on in the deal making of selling loans to dealers and to customers. And it's really hard to provide the best loans to customers because it's so archaic. So we're building this very modern um, marketplace for lenders that would provide them what exists in the mortgage industry and in the banking industry and other parts of it. So that's one thing we're doing. And the other thing that we're doing for dealers, which is connected to that, is enforcing preferred lender agreements. So we're automating the preferred lender agreement, which you might have with Bank A or Bank B or Bank C. That's another thing that we're providing to dealers. And also a suite of, a really interesting suite of financial efficiencies that we provide to dealers. One of them is payment processing. So imagine that inside your variable ops system, you can take bank transfers instead of paying credit cards because it costs you more if you do it with credit card and it's built in. Imagine that you can do F&I, buy now, pay later, for again, for the F&I products, whether it's selling a car or somebody
Yeah.
came back and just wants some F&I products. Imagine that you have low FICO band customers that you cannot serve because you don't have the right banks working with you, and we provide it to you built in. We work with more than 800 lenders built into our platform. All these things are built in, automated. You don't need to negotiate. It's all coming
Yeah.
just to your doorstep. So we are a fintech and automotive company under one roof.
Yeah, it sounds like that makes a lot of sense. Well, I appreciate you taking the time today. How can someone get started with Fuse or get more information?
Well, you just need to basically just go into FuseAutoTech.com, and you can immediately request a demo to reach out to our sales team, and request a demo. And basically, in 48 hours later, you can be working with our desking tool, and we can live together happily ever after. I mean, it's just simple as that. There's nothing complicated with us. We're trying to help you sell simply. That's it.
And then what markets are you in the US market? Are you looking at other markets or?
Yeah, actually, we are in the US and Canada right now. In Canada, we provide two types of products because it's a new market for us that we sort of jumped in
Mhm.
when the CDK hack started. We provide an emergency document signing ceremony, digital document signing platform that allows you to close deals no matter what. Even
Right.
if things don't work, you can still close deals. So we do, that's one thing we do. And we do the streamlining without integration. So we don't integrate the LOSs and all of these things. But what we do is we provide you with a platform in Canada that streamlines your sales process as we've built it again. And we have many customizations that we build into the process, whatever type of environment you have. So if you're in Canada, reach out. We can do that for you as well. The integrations we're building are just piling up right now. We're just starting with CDK 180 and more that are more prevalent in Canada. But the US, we are over 90% market compatibility. We integrate with all of the big players, CRMs, DMSs, LOSs, and it's all on one screen and one login.
Yeah.
Super easy.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for taking the time today. I know you're busy. And obviously, check out FuseAutoTech.com with any other questions. And, it was really interesting hearing the story. But as you look at these different integrations and also the time thing, which I've always felt is the biggest concern, if you can save time for customers and make it easier for staff, you're going to sell and service more vehicles. And I think that's an area that definitely needs to be handled. And when you look at the banking side, I thought it was interesting because I've had exposure to that when I worked for Decent Finance, but also when I look at the banks like TD to pick a bank, yeah, they do have regional field reps who spend time trying to, I guess, strong arm dealers to do this or that. And I always thought that was crazy. It was like, okay, so you're visiting dealers to hope to get, I mean, it made no sense to me at all. Like, I just didn't understand that. Being
It's
that
our
you up for a mortgage, with a broker and not have to deal with any of that stuff, or even with your bank. So
Yeah.
it was kind of like sitting there going, okay, so you have people that go there to talk to someone about putting more I mean, it's just crazy to me. But I guess some of those older systems like Dealer Link and a bunch of the other ones are just not, they're just not there. They're just not getting to that point, right?
Yeah,
There's an
exactly.
opportunity. It's great for you guys.
Yeah, it's huge for customers because they're going to get better loans. It's huge for the banks because they're going to be much more efficient when they provide the loans. It's great for the dealerships because they can enforce preferred lender agreements and improve their inefficiencies that are very hard to manage. If you're a single rooftop dealer, and that is, franchise dealers, out of the 18,000, I think about 11, 12,000 are single rooftop dealers.
Yeah.
How hard it is for them to manage all these small inefficiencies. They don't have a very sophisticated, they shouldn't have a very
Right.
sophisticated F&I person. And how much can you put on one F&I manager? So if we automate that and make it easier for you, like a black box that just does the magic for you and makes you, $24,000 a month more with the inefficiencies. Well, that's $300,000 annually. That's really cool. So I would like that.
Absolutely. And have yourself a great day. Thanks for the time.